The following is a presentation of the Eagles Sports Network.
All right, Mike Clowney, if you would open us up with a statement about the UVA Wise Highland Cavaliers.
Seems like yesterday. When we played Wise, it was the only game we played this spring. And then, the Coach Damron and his staff, man, they did a great job at Wise. Really impressed by, a lot of the guys that they have on the outside, their perimeters. They've done a good job getting some transfers. Really big guys, and Rick Wine's done a really good job of kind of being able to distribute the ball there. Their biggest experience points are probably up front. Like, they've got a really good offensive line, so it'll be a good challenge for us. From a defensive standpoint, the biggest thing we want to do is kind of continue to grow and improve from where we were last week. And when you flip sides of the ball, not as many familiar faces. They're similar to us, in the fact that they're young on defense. But those guys, they play hard. You kind of go watch ETSU. They play ETSU after ETSU beat Vandy, and you go watch them, be really competitive in that game early. And, probably they scored more points, I think, than Vandy did. So, good football team.
Again, you kind of alluded to it. It's 196 days since you last played them. I mean, this is basketball field, like the double round robin within the league. How has that short turnaround comparatively for football impacted the preparation? Has it helped? Has it hurt? What's that been like?
That's where you say it seems like yesterday, and then at the same time it kind of seems like an eternity because you left there and, we went to go try to play other games, so you kind of really packed that one away as quick as you could, and then all of a sudden, here we go again. That's one thing we talked to our team about after that game in the spring was like, we'll be right back up there in a few months, and here we are, headed back to Wise, and so, it's got a little bit of feel of both. There's been some other things that's kind of happened to kind of distract you from this game. And then the balancing point is like how much do you go back and look at that game versus this game, because they're really two really different football teams in this short amount of time as well.
You brought up Landon Redwine. He's top 10 in the country in passing touchdowns. Devin Hextall is top 10 in the country in receiving touchdowns. What have those two done to link up pretty consistently with some big play capabilities, especially for Hextall of Utah State?
Yeah, he's a big kid. That's the biggest thing, and that's where you can tell that they've worked together. They kind of, create some chemistry. And then, he's a really easy to target to throw to. And then Redwine's done a good job of finding those spots to put the ball. But then at the same time, the tempo that their offense works at is a big advantage. You watch the video and there's several plays where you don't get the entire play because they're moving so fast, and it's not a situation to where you could just zero on him because they've got other guys that you have to make sure that you get covered as well.
You bring up the tempo. I mean, most plays run against Carson-Newman all time 109. Granted, 4 overtimes had a smidge of something to do with that, but how do you prepare your defense for what is going to be a absolutely breakneck pace?
The good thing is they just saw it, and so I think that's one thing coming off the field that they're aware of. I think we got shocked by it a little bit last year. It shouldn't be a shock this time. Like, we know going into the game that it's going to be a really fast football game, and so we've got to make sure we do a good job of preparing, running, working to get back, get lined up, get set, get ready to play. There's not going to be a whole lot of time for fluff in the football game.
You and I talked process over results on the scoreboard post game, and it's pretty evident that there were some good steps made, process oriented with the defense. Those were there offensively, probably not as plaintively obvious as the defensive ones. How can you put that into layman's terms for a casual fan?
When you go, the big thing for us is always watching the field. And I think, we always, during the game, our feelings, and we talk to our guys about feelings all the time, our feelings are kind of engaged and involved. But when you go watch the film, you get to see the facts. The facts were that, we did a better job of getting off the ball up front. We did a better job at the backs attacking downhill. I think the effort and the want to was something that was really evident. And I think that's the first step in order to get to where you really want to get to. The things that we learned is that's what we told our guys yesterday. We're really just this far away, because the things that showed up. Now we get the effort and want to. We don't have to coach that, the steps. You know, if I take a too big a step at running back, which I coached for the last couple of years here, then it forces me to get my shoulders turned. That makes me go lateral as opposed to downhill. You know, some of those little detail things are now the things when we go on the field today, we have to match that, have a little bit better effort or the same effort we had last week. But now we've got to do a better job of cleaning up the details to where we can make things hit in a timely fashion. Timing is so critical on offense.
Defensively, I mean, Rondro Peebles, Alonzo Houston, you know what you've had out of them, but Justice Alexander has been a really pleasant surprise rushing the passer. I mean, clearly he had talent transferring in from Michigan State, but just how nice is it to see him cement himself up front?
It's been, you know, when you start recruiting Justice, it's like, you know, you recruit him from that standpoint of what you could have. And the thing that happens is the guy has to be open enough to do the things that you coach in order to get to where you feel like he can be as a player. You know, he was at Michigan State, so, I mean, he obviously had talent, but we felt like a lot of that was really raw. And what Justice has done is he's allowed himself to come in here and be developed. And Coach DeWeese and those guys on the defensive staff have done a good job of giving him the tools he needs to develop and grow. And he's done a good job being receptive to that. And so it's fun watching him play a big kid like that, to go out and give that kind of effort, to watch him redirect. You know, he bats the ball and like he has a chance, so tall he has a chance to intercept it. You know, and just kind of realizing where he's at there, man. Like, it's always fun when you see guys start become what you know they can be.
Last week against Wingate, you faced off against the top pass-catching tight end in Ryder Martin. And this week, Keyshawn Jarrod hasn't put up quite as gaudy numbers as Martin, but he had 10 catches for 100-plus yards against you in the spring. How are he and Martin similar? How are they different? How do you ensure that, well, granted, he's one of a litany of weapons that Wise has catching passes. How do you ensure that he doesn't go off?
You know, the tight end, I think in any offense, especially if he can receive, it is the hidden gem. You know, because most time people think tight end, he's going to block. But in reality, it's just like a couple times in the game Saturday, you know, we've got him in man coverage and we cut him loose because we get so involved on being able to come down and fit the run that we actually lose the tight end. And we got to do a better job of seeing him as we come down to make sure that, you know, we don't totally lose him as a priority. And so that's one thing that they've been able to do, is just kind of get him out in open space, to get him in free areas. And, you know, they've done a good job scheming him in spots. And so we've got to be alert of where he's at. We've got to communicate. We've got to make sure we got him covered.
First road game for your team this year after having 2 home games. What's the mindset that you tell your team as you hit the road to face UVA Wise on Saturday?
Yeah, I think it's good because we're going on the road to a place we just went on the road. So they're kind of familiar with the trip. There are some things in this trip that can be tough, and the guys are now aware of that. You know, we go over there, we play at 12. It's a day trip, you know, so we go down on Saturday. So there's some challenges there, and we've made a couple adjustments on the way we did the trip last time to try to put ourselves in a better mindset when we get there. We normally play at 1. This game's at 12. You know, so, but we have to make sure that, like, none of that becomes a concern. You know, the biggest concern has got to be, you know, regardless of what time or where it's at, we got to be ready to play football when the ball's kicked off.
Last year when we went up there, you were able to use the pass game very effectively. Quandoli had a long pass touchdown. Last week, Mars Hill did the same thing, used the pass game effectively to pull out the win up there. Is it going to be more pass-oriented, or is it going to just kind of like, let's see what the offense can do?
You know, it's going to be what we get this week in practice. You know, we've got to – that's what we talked about, you know, those relationships for them on offense. You know, that's one thing I heard Coach Jarrod talk about in his interview, is like not being concerned about, you know, who get the ball and how to get the ball, but it's more about, like, you know, us being able to function and get to where we need to be. And so if we get to situations like last year, like they were running down the box and we felt like we had some things there, we were able to throw the football. And so we'll still continue to look for those things. You know, I think, you know, we still have to be more concerned about us as an offense right now. You know, going into this game, you know, we scored 7, we scored 3. And so I think the defenses have had something to do with that, but I think it's been more of, you know, us still trying to figure out who we are. So we're still more concerned about our development than what happens with Wise.